Hello guys, welcome back. This is the last part of this chapter. In this video, we will introduce object-oriented philosophy and some useful operations. Let's get a quick start. Object-oriented programming, we also call it OOP. It's a program's design philosophy. It takes objects as a basic units of the programs, and an object contains the data and functions. There is another program's design philosophy, process-oriented programming. POP treats computer programs as a series of command sets. Process-oriented programming divides functions into sub-functions. That is to reduce the system's complexity by cutting the block functions into smaller functions. And it is a simplified program's design method. While OOP treats the computer programs as a collection of objects, and each object can receive the message from the other objects and process them, and the execution of the computer programs is a series of messages passing between objects. In Python, all data types can be treated as objects, and objects can be customized. The customer object's data types is a concept of class in OOP. Let's see more details of the design philosophies. The ideas of object-oriented design derives from nature because the concepts of the class and intents are natural. And class is an abstract concept. For example, our definition of the class student refers to the concept of the student, and instance refer to the specific students such as Better Simpson and Lisa Simpson. Therefore, the object-oriented design philosophy is to attract classes and create instances according to classes. Because the classes contains data and method of the manipulation data, so OOD has a higher abstractions than functions. Now we have known the OOD and the OOP. So what's the relationship between them? OOD does not specifically require the OOP languages. Actually, OOD can be implemented by the purely structured language such as C. But if you want to construct data types and the data types have the nature and the character of the objects, you need to do more work on your programs. When OOP features are built into language, OOP will be more efficient. On the other hand, an OOP language does not necessarily force you to write OO-related programs. For example, C++ can be taken as beta C. Java, in turn, requires that everything be classes, and that source files correspond to a class definition. In Python, however, classes and OOP are not necessary for daily programming. Although it was designed from the outset to be object-oriented and structured to support OOP, Python does not qualify or requires you to write OO code in your application. OOP is a powerful tool, and no matter whether you are ready to interline translation or turn, OOP can be abstractly controlled. Let's see some common Python OOP terms. Abstract implementations and encapsulations interface and compositions and derivations, inheritance structures and generalizations, specialization and polymorphisms and introspections and reflections. We know the OOP, and in Python, how we define objects. We often use a class to do it. A class is a data structure, and it combines the data values with behavioral characters. A class is a real-world abstract entity that appears in programmatic functions, and in instance marinized these objects. As an analogy, a class is a blueprint or a model used to produce the real projects. In Python, a class statement is similar to a function statement, with a corresponding keyword in the first line, followed by the body of the code as it defines as follows. You have the def, next has the function name, and then this the function's body. If we want to create a class, we may use the inheritance. In Python, a class can be inherited from one or more parent classes. The original class is called a base class or the superclass. If there are several classes and the classes have common variables, attributes, and function properties, then you can extract these variables properties and functions properties as the base class properties. The special variables properties and function properties are defined in this class, so that the base class's variables properties and the function properties are accessible only if the base class is inherited. This increases the scalability of the code. Abstraction is the extractions of the similar parts. A base class extracts the properties and that are common to the multi-classes. Once a class is defined, go to use it as a modules and enables the objects into your code, mixed with other data types and logic excludes the streams. There are two ways to use classes in your code. The first way is composition, which allows the different classes to be mixed and added to other classes to add functionality and code reusability. You can create an instance of your own classes in a large class and implement some other properties and methods to enhance the original class's object. The other way is derivation, which means that a subclass derives a new property on the basis of inheriting the present class. A subclass may have the unique object that its parent class does not have, or a subclass defines an object with names repeated in a parent class, and a subclass is also called a derivation class when there are significant differences between classes and compositions behave well, but when you design the same class with different functions and derivations is more reasonable choice. One of the more powerful aspects of the OOP is the ability to use the well-defined classes and expand it, modify it without affecting other snippets of the code that using existing classes in the systems. That's very convenient and very useful. OOD allows the class feature inheritance by a distinct class or subclass. These subclasses inherited their core properties from the base class. Also, these derivations may be extended to multi-generations. Related classes in the hierarchical derivation are of the parent and subclasses relationships. These classes deriving from the same parent classes are sibling relationships. The parent class and all high-level classes are considered ancestors. By default, properties are public in Python and can be accessed by the modules in which the classes resides, and by other modules, and that import the modules in which the classes resides. Many OO languages add some abilities to the data and provide only the functions to access its values. Most OO languages provide the access to control characters to qualify the access of the members' functions. Python provides the preliminary forms for the previous of the class elements. Properties that start with the double and line are confusing at the runtime. and therefore director assessed is not learned. Actually, it will precede the first name with the underscore and the class names. For a simple modules level privatization, you only need to use the single underline characters before the property type names. This prevents the properties and modules from being loaded with the from my modules import. This is strictly based on the scope, and therefore this is also true for functions. That's all class method in Python, some other languages, and it is the important part when we learn programming. So we should learn it carefully. We should know this inheritance and compositions and derivations, subclasses, and privatization. And after learning the hard part, let's take a break and learn the simple one, how to set date and time. And we can use the date times function and to get the current date and time. For example, and from the date times, I import this function, the date time, and we will get the current date times. Use the now function, and we can print it, and then we get the current times. So how we convert date times between two time zones? We can convert date times using the timestamps functions. We use the timestamp to get the corresponding Beijing time. Note that the datetime is a module, and it also contains the datetime class. Only the class import by from the datetime import datetimes is the datetimes class. If you import only the import datetime, and you need to refer to the full name datetimes, the point datetime. If you want to return the correct data and times with the types of data times, just only import the date time, just import the date times, use the type like that, and date time, and point date time, and point date time, and point now. That will return the correct data and times. Note that Python's time steps is the floating point number. If there are decimal places, the decimal places represent the number of the milliseconds. The time steps of some programming language such as Java and Java steps, they use the integer to represent the number of the milliseconds, in which case the floating point representation of the Python can only be achieved by dividing the time steps by the 1000. And we used from the time steps these functions to convert the time steps to the date times. Note that time steps is a floating point number, and it does not have the concept of the time zero, but date times have the time zone. Log time refers to the time zone set by the current operating systems. For example, the Beijing rule is the East 8, right? Then the local time is the 2015th and 4 and 19th, 12 and 20th. And this is the times of the Beijing times and the Beijing times zero. And at the moment, gradient which standard times and Beijing times offset by the 8 hours. And that is the times in UTC, 0, that UTC, and as the rows. In that time row, the times should be the 2015 4 and 19 4 20th. And we used the UTC and from times grab this function to translate the times between the different time rows. Log time is the times when the system sets the time 0. For example, Beijing times is the UTC 8 time zones, and the UTC times refers to the times of the UTC 0 clock times 0. Date times types have the time 0 attributes the TZ in false, but the default is none. So we should give it numbers, and therefore it is impossible to identify the time row of the date times unless you force the time row for your date times. So that's the way to convert local time to the UTC times. If you want to know the time rows, and use it to force the time row as the UTC 8, and that will set it. You can set it use the TZ in 4. And to set the data time, data time rows, and that will return the time rows, the information. And we know how to get times and how to convert times, and we can use it to calculate how long our code runs, and that will be very useful for us when we do our programming and do our projects, and when we deal with our test in Python, how we should do in Python. We will use regular expressions. Yes, we use accuracy analysis, the test. And so let's see what's the regular expressions. A regular expression is a string of the characters and special symbols that describes the patterns, respectations, and multi-characters. And therefore, a regular expression can match a series of strings with similar characters in a pattern, and it can provide the basics for advanced test pattern matching and extractions, and all the test styles, search and replace functions. In Python, we can do the regular expressions use the IDE modules. Yes, the other module is very important for us to do the regular expressions. The IE modules also provide functions that are identical to those of the methods, which are used the pattern strings as their first argument. The compiles functions generate the regular expressions object and based on the pattern strings and the operator flag argument. This object has a series of methods for regular expressions matching and substitution. Match exception to match a pattern from the starting positions of the string. If the start position matching succeed and match functions returns none. And such scans the entire string and return the first successful match. The approximate matching process for regular expressions is similarly like that. And the regular expression engines comprise the expressions and comprise expression strings that also includes how to match the information. After compiled, we will get the objects, and we get objects, and then we use objects to match our test. And in this match process, we will do match string groups and index in the test. To match characters between regular expressions and text. If each character matches, the matches succeed. If there is any character match failures, the match will fail. The general steps in the IE modules is just like that, and the two comprise the string forms of the regular expressions into the pattern instance, and then use the patterns instance to process the text and get the matching result. And finally use the match instance and use the match instance to get the information and do other things. For examples, and you can do confirmed, use the IE confirmed functions and confirmed the what hello, and match the text with the pattern and returns none if there not match. And so we use the pattern match function to match this the thickness, hello world. If they match, then we will get the group information, use the match and print it, then print it function, and we will get the result, the hello, the world. So in the example, we use the functions IE compiles to compile the text, and use the match group to get group information. Let's see more IE models, the functions, and IE objects methods. We will use them when we analyze our test. The compile functions, the functions that will compile the irregular expression, and parting use the ending optional flags and return regular expressions objects, and like that, IE point, compiles, and all. If we want to search if the ABC, and we will return the ABCD the groups. And if we want to match and use the match from the starter of the string, like the examples. And also there have the the search functions, find function that finds all regular expressions patterns in string and returns a list. And there's also more the functions or method find split and subber, and also the group and groups and group dictator, and IE the local IE method. There are many methods, and let's see some important methods. This method is factory method of the parting class, which is used to compile regular expressions in string as a parting object. The second argument flag is the matching partings, which can be used by the bitwise or operator parting particular, meaning that it takes etc. at the same time as the IE point else and IE point arms act. Alternately, you can specify parting in the against the string, such as E compiles the parting regulars IE point L, IE point M, which is equivalent to the IE compiles and these patterns. And this IE else will ignore the case, and this one means the multi-length model change behaviors of the things. And this is a dot all match models change the behavior of the point dot, and mix the predefined string classes, and that depends on the setting of the character areas and the locals, and the Unicode, and mix the predefined string classes depend on the character provided divided by the Unicode. And verbose, this is a verbose model. In this model, regular expressions can be multi-landed and ignore the space characters and add the components. A parting object is compiled regular expressions that can be matched to a search by a series method provided by a parting. A parting can't be directly installed and must be constructed using the IE point compiles. The parting provides several readable properties for getting information about expressions. And the pattern and expression string use the driving compilations and this flag and matching patterns for compilations which has digital forms, and groups and the number of the groups in the expressions. Group index a dictionary with the alias of the alias group in an expression as the key and the group number as the value. The match object match results. The result contains a lot of information about the match, and you can use the readable properties and method to get that information. Strings and to test to be used for matching, and IE the parting object used for matching, and pause the index in which the regular expressions begin the search. the value is the same as the arguments with the same names for the patterns match, and the patterns search method, and the interpose, and the index in which the regular persons into the search. The value is the same as the arguments with the same names for the pattern match and the pattern search methods. And last index, the index of the last captures the groups index. If the no groups are the captured, it will be none. The last group, the alias of the last captured group. If these groups have no alias or it is no captured group, it will be none. They are also matched method, and groups 1, group 2, and use the group to get a string that is intercepted from the one or more groups and returns the tuple when the multi-arguments are specified. The group 1 can be used the number or the alias, and the number 0 represents the entire matched substrings. If the return the group 0, if the no argument is filled, none for the groups without strings interruptions, and the last interceptions substrings for the groups with repeat strings interceptions. And group default will return the interception strings of all the groups in the tuple forms. It is equivalent to calling the groups 1, 2, 3 or to the last group, and the default indicates that a group with no intercepted string is substituted with this value and is defaulted to the none. Group dict returns the dictionary with the list and of the list groups as a key, and the substrings intercepted from the group as values. A group without a list is excluded, and the default has the same meanings. And the start group returns the start index and the interact of the intercepted substring in a string for a subfield group. A group defaults to 0, and the end groups return the end index of the intercepted substring in string for the supervised groups. And also the groups default to the 0, and scan the group. And scan group returns the start group to the end groups, and extend the template and convert a matchup group into the template, and return the conversion result. In the template, IDs or the GIDs, the group IDs, the group names can be used for the reference, but the number 0 can't be used. IDs is equivalent to the group ID, but split 10 will be considered as the 10th group. If you want to express the split 1 followed by the character 0, and you can only use the group and 1, 0. So when we do the regular expressing, we often use some special symbols and characters. Let's see some details about that. That's the symbols like that, the iterators, the match the iterators values, and the text strings. Also, we use the perpendiculars to split regular list 1 and regular list 2 to match the regular expressed the two regular expressions. And the dot match any characters, and this match the string text dollars, the symbols match string end, and the asterisk match regular expressions that appears to none meanings, and the at symbols match regular that appears to once or many times, like that. Is the search the Bob that true, and you can search the Bob, and then has the symbols In this piece, there are also symbols and other symbols much regular expressing that don't appear or appear once. Like that, if the bob appears, okay, that appears and returns the bob. And use the in functions much is regular expressing that appears in times. Also, we can use the m and in the square breaks and to that means the match the regular expressions that appears m's to n times. Also, we can match the endings characters, match any character in the x to the x range, use the x to the y, and doesn't match any characters in the string. And also, we can match the non-gradient versions of the symbols that appears frequently or repeatedly. In this paper, we introduced the characters. If you want to learn the regular expressions more, and you can search the table, and you find what you want to use, and then find their descriptions and to know more about it. In regular expressions, there are most special symbols and characters. If you want to use to find their descriptions, know what the meaning of they stand for, and then you can use it. Here we don't talk more about it, so that the regular expressions part. If we have the test files or data files, how we open it or how we read the concept of the files. The last part we introduced that files manipulation. File manipulation is the great importance to the programming languages, and the information technologies will be meaningless if the data can't be personally read, saved, or used. Common types of the files manipulation includes opening, closing files, and reading write files, and backing up files. First, let's see how to open the files. We will see open functions with access modules just like that. We can use the F and point open, and you can use the files names, and then use the access mode. The access mode, use the R as stand for the opens the files only for readings. This the W with the open only for writings, and the A only for the addition, and RDs using the binary format only for reading, and WB okay using the binary format only for writings, and many the accessed models. If we want to more, and you should remember that all of the jobs, it can help you use it correctly. And we can write functions to save our data in files, and we can write our data like that. First, we should open it, and then we write the libby and into our files, and then close and the libby. This string will save in our files, and we can read the data and read later by the line by line, and we will print the concept of the line, and closing the files, and like that at this the F point close and the functions, and here are more details about write and open our files, and F point write A and with the pi strings, and write a string, we write string, and write lines or read lines is similar to the following read class, and F point read and read all, F point read size, and read size read the character of the size number from the files, and read line will read a line and return the empty string to the file's end, and we read lines and reads all and return a list. each element of the list represents of the row containing the perpendicular and n, and f tail and f tail this function, and return the current file's read location, and f point seek, and this locates the file's read or write location of represent and offset, and a placing number means offset to the file's end, and the negative numbers means the offset to the file starts. Okay, that's some functions about write, open, and read, and close, and flashing. And here, if we want to change our files names, and there are many files, if we want to do by ourselves, it will take our long times. How we do it with the high efficient, and here the method, we can do it on the bench. Firstly, get the target fault, and to that, and then get the name of the files in the target fault, and we can use the list functions and to return the child directors, and we will rename the files like that. Use the renames function. We also use the OS modules and use the renames functions. As it's very too easy to rename the files in a bunch.